Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be a fun episode with Brendan Burns, the Chief Hunting Officer and Director of Conservation at Kuyu, and Kevin Wilkey, the Marketing Development Director at Kuyu. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
Fantastic here.
Looking forward to having you both on. We've got a slew of questions from KUIU customers here, and I thought I would take a little second here and just go through them and answer them. I know the KUIU customers really enjoy this format, and it's nice to have you both on at the same time. Kevin, the last time I talked to you, you were headed to Alaska, I believe, with your son. Just curious how that trip went.
Yeah, it was awesome. We went on a week-long hunt, fish, tour, bender of Alaska. It was like our first time ever going up there. And Brendan and I have colleagues up there, Justin Schaefer and Lee Daniels. They both manage our guide and outfitter program. So it was really cool to go there and hang out with those guys, and they helped me out a ton. But I was able to get my now he's 16. His birthday was yesterday. But I was able to get my son on his first bear, and we went down the Kenai Peninsula and just went wherever we wanted, fishing and glassing and spotting, and went out on the ocean and caught a bunch of halibut. But it was an awesome experience. I can't wait to go back.
Fantastic. What was the travel like as far as with the COVID stuff? Did you have to do anything special?
Yeah, so I flew Delta Airlines, and at the time, it's since changed, but I had to have a COVID test before, and results within 72 hours of arriving. And since we didn't get our results in time, we had to self-quarantine when we got there. But I was able to get our results back in time that we could take off and go do our thing. But flying up there was nice. I've never had them do this before, but they kept my son and I in the same row throughout our whole trip for all 4 legs of every flight. That we were on the same row, no passengers in the middle aisle, and you had to wear a mask the whole time. But recently, I think you have to have a negative test,
correct,
to even get on the airplane and go. So
yeah, they just changed it, I think, as of the 31st, where you have to. I'm going up to moose hunt in September. I just got back took the family up there fishing, and going forward, you have to have the I guess negative results of a COVID test before you go. At this point in time, within 24 hours, I believe, and there's a bunch of, you got to either do the rapid test or there's some protocol that you can go through where I believe you spit in this. They send you this package and you can spit in this cup and they'll get your results back beforehand. But it's changing all the time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know a bunch of guys that, not a bunch, but a handful of guys that had drawn sheep tags, Chugach and whatnot, and they were headed up, and I think those new changes kind of came right here at the last, and they were a little bit stressed about it, but I think as far as I know, everything worked out all right. Brendan, I know you went up there with your family. I believe you went with Lance. Looked like the fishing was outstanding. You guys caught some really, really nice fish.
Yeah, it was cool to get up and go. We went out on the peninsula to family trip with another family and Lance and his family. It was just a friends and family trip, which was really cool. And we went out, and the sockeye were just coming in, kings were just coming in, dollies and rainbows were in, and yeah, it was just fun. My son caught his first big fish all his own, and Lucas and Gray went up with it. We had a super cub there too, a little flying around. It was awesome. And yeah, my wife got she's never fished before either, so she caught a lot of fish. So it was just really fun to have a relaxing
looks like she kind of caught the bug. I could tell from the pictures she was really smiling. It looked like she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, she caught the fish of the trip as far as I'm concerned. I was showing her how to throw a fly rod, and literally her first cast with a fly rod, she caught a 28.5-inch big buck dolly Varden, which is, I guided up there for 7 years, all summer long for 7 years, fly fishing only, and I never have seen a dolly this big, and she hammered it. I mean, this thing is just
beautiful fish.
One of the coolest fish I've ever seen. So that was really cool, and we saw some bears, and it was just nice. Travel was, it's just different now. You just got to you got to understand that you're going to have potentially delays. It's definitely more expensive. The charter company Raven going out of business is really a pain. A normal charter flight out to some of those smaller areas would be, $100 or $200. I think they've always been fairly subsidized in the past and very easy to get out there. And now we end up chartering our own flight, and it's pretty expensive. It's just, there's just a lot of changes going on. I hope they can get everything kind of figured out and give people some options. But it's I mean, we had to sit on an airstrip in the middle of nowhere for 4 or 5 hours, and no one from the village can come out and see you, and you got to wear a mask, and I guess it's just a new normal until it's not. So just an interesting thing. You just got to be prepared for it.
Brendan, also, before we get into the Q&A, Conservation Direct, obviously the unbelievable projects that you guys have been able to fund with the KUIU Customers and KUIU as a company. I've got another project. I know a little bit about it. What I do know about it, I'm super excited about. I just wanted to point that out. And let people know if they want to get involved. This is the time. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I'm not going to give out all the details. I'm still working through some contractual stuff, but we have a really exciting project coming up. Another one where, it's going to be all company and customer funded. It does involve sheep. It's going to be pretty awesome. If anybody wants to be involved, you can either shoot me an email or shoot Jay an email, or there's a sign up place for involvement on conservationdirect.com if you want to be involved. But in the next week or two, I will have some finite details on how people can be involved from either a volunteer standpoint or from a financial standpoint. But we're going to do it one way or the other. It's pretty exciting. I mean, Jay and I have been talking about it, and man, we're gonna make another one happen. It's pretty exciting. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I know when you pulled the first one off, there was so many people that had contacted me that were basically like, wow, I didn't know about it. I really want to get involved. And so I urge those people, if you want to be involved, get a hold of us because this is an important project, and Brendan's, running the lead on all of this and doing an amazing job. And it's going to be fantastic from what Brendan has told me about it. I'm super excited. So get a hold of us and guys, let's dive into some questions here.
All right.
Okay, first question, fall bear hunting in Idaho, quick tips or lessons learned?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one real quick. So fall bear hunting is different than spring bear hunting. Spring bear hunting, I assume he's talking black bears. I'll just go about it like he's talking spot and stock. Obviously with bait, they're going to be at the bait site, and it's legal, which is legal in Idaho. But spot and stock in the fall is focused on one thing, and that's basically food. You're talking carrion or berries, heavy on berries, especially like in a lot of those areas, they're going to be in creek bottoms or on big hillsides where there's a lot of berries. And so if you can concentrate on the food at this time of year, I mean, they're not breeding. They are basically making trying to get as fat as possible for the fall. So whether it's carrion, there's some places where, whether it's dead animals or, carcasses, stuff like that, or berries, lush stuff that they really like to eat this time of year, that's what I concentrate on. They won't move a lot. If you see one, and he's eating in berries, like they generally won't move around a ton, unless they're moving to another food source. But that's the best advice I can give for fall bear hunting.
And Brendan, as far as, strategies and tactics, I assume if it's all about food, you do a ton of glassing on that hunt as well. So if you know where the food is, would I assume in the little bear hunting that I've done, we have them all over the ranch and stuff, and I see them, but get up and across from them where you can look kind of down and across and kind of look into those patches where you think they're going to be, and then just cover country with your binos?
Yeah, I mean, the more glassing you can, the more walking you can do with your eyes, the better. Now, a lot of times they'll be in those deep creek bottoms too. That if you know a spot that's got a ton of, whether it's huckleberries or whatever, blueberries, hillside, like in Alaska, you'd have hillsides with blueberries, but like the kind of deep, dark places that have a lot of berries, they can be hard to find too. There's some still hunting you can do, but the glassing is going to be the most effective. And it depends on the area you're in, but yeah, I mean, I just concentrate on food. Like it's not that hard to figure out. You can walk through a lot of stuff and see, if there's big piles of bear scat with tons of berries in it, you can bet there's a bear there eating that, And so that's how I'd go about it. I generally take one in the springtime, so I haven't hunted fall bears a ton, but you see a lot of them, or really up high too. They are wearing a giant sweater, so they don't like to be in hot, out in the middle of the sun. Like they definitely would. High alpine stuff, you'll definitely see some more bears up in that kind of country too.
So I would assume like north-facing slopes, more shaded slopes, definitely in the afternoon, kind of be looking into the sun or sun in your face and looking into where it's shaded, where it's cooler. But if they get on food and they're kind of locked in, once they kind of get on it, they're kind of there. So if you were to spot a bear, it's usually a pretty good spot to be able to get down and get to them, right? I mean, it's not like they're just out traveling a ton. Once they kind of lock in on food, they're there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically nature's bait. I mean, when they get locked on that food source, they're going to react exactly like they would if they were hitting a bait station. They know that's where they eat. I mean, they've got to drink, they've got to digest, and they've got to come back, and they want to get as much as they possibly can. And they're trying to do as little as they can and get as much gain as far as fat and food as they can put in. So really, I mean, if you're basically targeting a natural bait, like a berry patch or creek bottom with tons of berries, and they would just, they don't have a limit on how much they can eat. They will just continue to eat until the food source is gone or somebody runs them off or something like that. So yeah, I mean, the more you can, and I've never found morning hunting for bears to be very effective. Like, I think 90% of the bears I've seen in my life are in the evening. They're kind of like people. They're kind of lazy in the morning. So, those are just some quick, rules of thumb, some
Sure.
in general stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I would concentrate on the food.
Okay, next question. Would Kuyu be able to add a waist strap with pouches to the Stalker 500?
I can take that one. I guess we could add that, but in our lineup, we already have the Venture 1800, which is a little bit bigger than the Stalker 500. But knowing what we've got coming down the hatch, we've got a new line of packs coming in the next few weeks, which will be close to what he's described there. So I would make sure you stay tuned, watch your emails from Kuyu in the next few weeks. Those should be dropping like end of August time frame. So that's what I would keep an eye out for.
Okay, next question. Most common bow failure on pack backcountry hunts, I think is what he's saying, i.e. peep pops out, etc.
All right, so yeah, he's asking, and like, what are the most common issues that could happen to a bow on a backcountry hunt, or any bow hunt for that matter. Having worked in an archery shop for 6 years, I thought I'd seen it all, but surprisingly, the number one thing that I used to see, guys that put their release buckle, their wrist strap buckle around their bottom limb, they're in camp, and everybody's checking out each other's bows, and like somebody grabs a hold of the bow and draws it back with their fingers, and the release slides down the limb, and when they let the string down, the cam sucks the release right into the cam, derails the bow. They're stuck on the mountain with a bow that doesn't work. So it was always like, at the shop that I worked at, it was always like we would place bets at what time Saturday morning, opening of deer and elk season, that somebody would roll in with that exact problem. And it was like we'd place bets on the time that they would come in that day as soon as the store would open, because it was like clockwork. But the number one thing to go wrong is strings. They're very delicate. Brendan and I recently put together a 10-tip article. You can find it on Kuyu's Basecamp.
That was phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, how to mountain-proof your bow for a backcountry hunt. So Brendan and I, a few other guys at Kuyu, we put our heads together, and that's what we came up with. So I would recommend reading that, unless Brendan's got a few other tips. I know he's probably spent more time in the backcountry than anybody.
Yeah, when I'm taking a bow on a sheep hunt or like a long backpack, kind of one thing I do is I have a removable. My sight is removable. I do take an arrow tube with me, especially on a big backpack hunt, just because you got your nock sticking out and you're going through brush. Like I've got my setup now where I put all my arrows in an arrow tube and I pull my sight off and I leave it with my release, and I just try and minimize anything that's going to be hanging out there. I mean, you're talking broken pins. You could bend your sight or fall down, and a lot of times on these big backpack hunts, yeah, you can bring a second bow with you, or you can plan like, oh, if something goes wrong. But at the end of the day, if you're truly on an unsupported backpack hunt, you've got your bow with you. There's not a faster way to turn a bow hunt into a rifle hunt than breaking your bow. And so I just try and secure everything on my bow that I can that could possibly be in the way or get caught on something or snagged, and string cover, all that stuff. I try and protect everything and make sure my arrows don't get broke or anything like that. And I've got a system set up now where I just throw my sight back on. I've got my release with me. I can pull 4 arrows out. They're all marked. I mean, it takes me less than 2 minutes to get ready. And you're not jump shooting sheep or, like this fall or last spring, I had that big grizzly bear. Like, it took me about 3 minutes to get ready to kill that bear and go after him. And, after brush brushing and stuff like that, and the one thing I would say is the only thing I do double up on in a hunt like that is my release. I mean, my release is either on my wrist or on my riser or with my sight. Like if I pull everything off, I put it with my sight, and I do have an extra release just in case something could go wrong, or you forgot it or lost it or whatever. Again, there's, it's pretty hard to be accurate if you shoot a release and have to go to fingers, especially on a once in a lifetime hunt. 10 years ago, I was in Alaska on a dull sheep hunt. I didn't get a sheep, but I did have a marmot climb in my tent, rip a hole through the side of my tent, and eat my wrist strap because of the salt on it. So, I've always brought a second one now. I mean, you just mauled this thing. So,
but circling back on strings being the number one thing that can go wrong, like you got to treat them like they're super delicate, because they are. Like if you have a backpack strap wrapped around on them, or if guys that are hunting off an ATV or a horse, like anything that's touching your string will wear it out really quick. Like, I kind of learned this on a mountain goat hunt that I did back in 2011 in British Columbia. We had like a 27-kilometer ATV ride, followed up by like a full day pack in, and I had my bow on my backpack the whole time. And when I got to camp, one of my straps had like almost rubbed it all the way through the yoke harness on the bow, on the cable. And luckily it didn't break through any of them, but like seriously, if I would have gone a few more miles, it would have cut all the way through. So since then I've full length served my cables, and anywhere I can add that extra layer of serving, the wrap that goes around the string, I do that just to avoid that from happening. And you just got to be very careful with them. I'd say strings are the number one thing to watch out for, but you got to be careful with the whole kit.
Next question, Brendan's advice for first week of September OTC archery elk. I'm trying to kill my first bull.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great place to be in, and the bar is that's easier to achieve for sure. So I'd focus especially on the first week of September. And I don't know where he's at in Colorado, Montana, whatever, but you're going to have your most success focused on either food or water, or lonely bulls. I mean, like if you're that time of year, some elk tend to run, like elk kind of run in cycles, and some bulls like to rut early, and some bulls in early September won't be doing anything. So if you can focus on some water, some food, and there are younger bulls early that feel like they need to get in early, and they're highly callable, especially early when they're looking for cows. So you can call sparingly, but there's and again, a lot of the big bulls, there's nothing wrong with killing your first bull being a great big bull. Will be heavily focused on water and food that time of year, or just staying close to the cows. I've seen bulls that didn't really punch into rut, like kind of got close, and we're just kind of like on a normal cycle of feeding and bedding and watering, but waiting until the first cows kind of came into cycle. And early when the herds are all getting together too, it depends on if it's a small herd or a bigger herd. A lot of times, when they first punch in, they're not as smart as they're going to be in 10 days once they've been pushed around a little bit. So you get a little bit of leeway. They're slightly easier to call, and especially those young bulls that are trying to figure out maybe rutting for the first time. Just try and find as many elk as you can. But yeah, food and water are definitely good to concentrate at that time of year, especially when it's hot. Yeah,
and I'd throw into the stuff you're talking about, water. I mean, if you can sit in a tree stand above a really good wallow, or take a ground blind, a lot of times early like that, if it's hot, which it usually is that first week, you get those bulls that are wallowing, and So to focus in on a really good wallow where they're coming in to, cool off is huge. As well as, like Brendan said, a lot of times, if it's your first archery elk hunt, I would not be focusing on trying to kill a, great big bull. I would probably try and not, get a bull under your belt and, try and get one. So it could play out that calling could be very effective, especially on young bulls, like Brendan said. Some just random cow calling and sporadic cow calling, could get an answer and get a bull, even if he's coming in silent. So early, I would kind of be a little bit more patient in your calling setup. So if you do get a bull to bugle and he's kind of responded, where maybe 2 weeks later he's going to come bugling the whole way in. A lot of times early they're going to come in kind of quiet and silent, and so just kind of give your setup time a little bit more than you normally would. Next question: which Kuyu socks are best for warmer weather, i.e., Arizona September elk hunt?
I think our coolest sock right now would be the strong wool hybrid. That sock it's kind of the reason we call it a hybrid is because it has sections that are wool and other sections that are polyester. So wool does a fantastic job of wicking or absorbing moisture, but it's not very good at letting it go. But the polyester panels next to the wool panels are really good at wicking and drawing that moisture away up and out of the boot. So for warm weather, I would suggest that strong wool sock. The socks are lightweight. I always pack an extra pair in my pack. If you're hiking, I'm in Utah, so it's pretty hot at the same time. You guys are down in Arizona. So, as I stop to glass, I'll often just switch out to a fresh pair of socks, hang the other ones in my pack so they dry out. And it's amazing how much just doing a sock change throughout the middle of the day will increase your comfort.
Yeah, and I think
I run the hybrid crew with a really, really thin liner sock. I always have a liner sock next to my foot, no matter what I'm doing, and it seems to work really good for me for blisters. But yeah, I mean, keeping them dry is the key.
Yeah, and to top on, just come on top of you guys on that. If you're in Arizona and you're doing some glassing as well, even if you can't change your socks, like Kevin's saying, you're up on a glassing knob, kick your boots off, let your feet dry out, let your boots kind of dry out, let your socks dry out. That's always something that I like to do. If I'm going to glass for 30 minutes or so, just kick your boots off and let your feet dry out. It helps a lot. Next question. We need a Peloton 118 hoodie, please.
We have something in the works that's not released yet. That's better than that. So we're working on something that's better. I think where you're going with the 118 hoodie. It would probably be a pretty good please, but I think we're working on something better. So you just have to hold off.
What a tease!
I know.
That's all you can give us. What a tease.
That's it. Yep.
Okay, when scouting new areas, how long before you move glassing spots, basins?
I'll grab this one. For me, especially with sheep, I'll just assume he's talking sheep. A morning and a night is what especially if if you're just covering a lot of country and you're just trying to find where animals are. That's one thing that's different. But like right now, like for example, I'm hunting goats right now. I'm trying to find goats from where I have a goat tag this fall. You pretty much know what's there, especially in the summertime or early in the year. If you give it a morning and a night, if there's nothing in there, you either need to come back, check later. But that's give it a good solid try. I mean, animals are funny, especially in the heat. They might not move during one session, or you'll catch them super early in the morning, or catch them on their way to bed. I mean, I was out the other morning and looking for some goats, and I found two of them, and they were bedded at 6:45 a.m. I mean, it wasn't even close to being hot yet, and they were already like locked in a deep spot. I just got lucky where I spotted them. So, in general, especially with sheep hunting, I go a morning and a night.
It's funny you said that, Brendan, because I was thinking the same thing, and Dar and I tend to do that, whether we're coos or elk or sheep or whatever we're doing. It's amazing. If you glass in the morning, you might just catch it, or you might catch them and they're already headed to bed and you didn't see half of what's there. But if you can glass an evening and a morning back to back, you can usually get a pretty good sense of what's there, and that will dictate and allow you to say, okay, I need to keep moving, or I need to spend a little bit more time, or I need to relocate and kind of hone in on a certain specific area. So I like that answer for sure. How much warmer is the 280 than the 240?
Sorry, yeah, that's me. So the 280 is a full zip, and as is the 240. It's more substantial for sure. I guess I don't have other than saying, as Kevin said, 40 more. I don't have a real way to say it. Like, it's definitely more substantial to the touch. And whereas like a 240 would be like a definitely a mid layer. The 280, I've had multiple prototypes, are kind of like a later season cold weather mid layer, or like could be your primary jacket that you're taking with you, like in the summertime. Like right now when I'm scouting goats, it's going to be 100 degrees during the day. The most I would possibly need on a day hike, especially starting if it's really cool or we get a little shower and I've got rain gear, is that kind of, it's like that heavyweight sweatshirt type, but synthetic. So
yeah, so to the touch and the feel, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, the 280 is going to feel substantially thicker and, more beefy, if you will, than the 240. 240, wouldn't it be a lot more for kind of spring, early fall type, and then you would consider like the 280 potentially more for those later fall, definitely colder hunts, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have as much. It doesn't have as much wind resistance. They're just both built differently. The 240 has a wind resistant layer in it, and the 280 does not. So it's more breathable but more substantial.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. The 240, I think I would wear more on like a blustery day. You got some wind and maybe a little bit of light rain. Where the 280, I think it has a higher loft fleece on the inside. It's that brushed heavy fleece. I think it would do a little better as like an insulating layer than what the 240 would.
Next question. Why do you think rams broom?
There's a couple reasons. One would be horn shape. I mean, a lot of people think they broom because, so they can see, which I've never, a lot of rams just broom. It's personality and horn shape. There's some horn shaped, like really wide rams that I think it affects how they eat. And they have to broom, or super tight sheep that come up and it gets in their way. And there's some shapes of rams that, a lot of them don't broom, they break fighting. So a lot of it's personality too. I mean, I've killed a few rams that were just mean, like to butt everybody and like to fight with everybody, and they just get broken to pieces. So a lot of it, like, they're like people, some rams just are not that aggressive. Get those super lamb tips, never rub off, including bighorns. There's some of them that just stay long and thin, and there's some rams that just, they want to bust it to the core every time they get after it. And a lot of it is horn shape too. There's some shapes of horn configurations that tend to broom more. The big, low slung rams tend to not broom as much unless it gets in their way and they're naturally running into it feeding or stuff. But a lot, yeah, basically horn shape and personality.
Brendan, real fast, explain to the people that really don't even know what brooming is. Talk about how a sheep's horn, as they're, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, how they come out, and what you're actually, when you say brooming, what it actually means.
Yeah, brooming is knocking off the end of the end of their horn. I mean, when you see a long, thin ram that he still has his lamb tip on there, which, sheep grow about, in their first year of life, they grow about 7 to 12 centimeters. Then they have put on a big year of growth, and it's usually a lot thinner. And by the time they hit their 3.5, 4th year, like sometimes you'll see these rams that are broomed heavy like a ball bat, and people, you'll count rings from the end and go 1, 2, 3. Well, he's already missing almost 3 years off the end. I've killed rams that are broomed back to their 3-year annuli, and sometimes they'll keep all their lamb tips. They're killed stone sheep that still have their lamb tip on them, so you can. It's basically knocking off the ends, and like I said, some of it is fighting. Some of it is, I've seen rams that it gets in the way of whether they're eating or they're constantly, like, if they're standing on a slope, one side will be broomed more than the other because, it hits the ground while they're feeding on a steep angle. So, it's basically the removing of the tip of their horn as it gets in the way. Or, like I said, there's some rams that come straight out and comes up by their eye and ends up above their nose. And if you can just look at look at how they would hit heads with another ram, it's clear that like that tip's coming off. And usually the first time they fight, or, you know, those big impacts will bust it off. And some of them just rub them off. Some of them like to rub on stuff, and we'll rub them way back.
It's called brooming because the fibers of the horn, the way they come together at the tip, as they get broken off, they're just little spikes and fibers. It looks kind of like the end of a broom, right?
That could be.
That's a great point, Kevin.
It's good of an explanation of why it's named broom as I've ever heard.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I've always just thought and visualized. So when I've looked at them that have been broomed off. Yeah,
I can see that. I'm looking at a doll sheep right now, sitting right here, and I can picture a broom right there. I might tackle this one. Any tips on January mule deer hunts in northern Arizona? January mule deer hunts in northern Arizona, one of the things you have to understand is they are going to be rutting. So on that January hunt, unlike a lot of states, those deer will be rutting and rutting hard. Even in the deserts of Arizona, one of the benefits of Arizona's over-the-counter hunt in January is that in the desert and up in the pines and in northern Arizona, they are rutting. Now, not on the Arizona Strip. If you're talking north of the Colorado River on the 13A or 13B, those deer rut in mid-November and into December. But the rest of the state, all over the rest of the state, one of the awesome things about that OTC, one of you guys, I'm getting some feedback. Maybe go mute. One of the benefits.
I think Brendan's cooking lunch or something.
No, is that me? No, I'm good.
Okay. It sounds like it sounds like iced tea or something. But mule deer are going to be rutting in January. So the tips I would have are it's all about the does. Find the does and you'll find the bucks. And it should be peak rut activity. So if you're finding does and you don't find the buck you want, I would keep moving. But remember where those does are and keep checking back on those doe groups, because when they're rutting, it's all about those hot does. And I move around more when they're rutting, just, covering country, trying to find the buck that I'm looking for. Anybody else got anything to add?
I think that's pretty well spot on. That's solid advice.
Okay, next question. With a full moon mule deer tag, should I try and kill in archery season or hold out with the rifle tag?
I always keep hunting through a full moon. When I hear people ask, like, what do you do during the full moon, or they suggest they'll just sit it out, like, the deer are still up there. Like, they're still on the mountain. They don't disappear. They're still there. It's just their patterns may change a little bit. With a full moon at night, they may move a little bit, or they'll be up feeding more later in the evening or earlier in the morning, depending on when the moon's up. But one of the best mule deer archery bucks I've ever killed was on a full moon, middle of the day. He was out. I caught him feeding in the middle of the day because I think he'd been up at night. So I never stop hunting because of the moon phase. Sometimes I'll spend a little more time out in the field when it's suggested that it's like high level activity because of the moon, but I won't not hunt because of it. So, man, I would give it everything you've got on the archery and the rifle. Like, I would never want to look back on a hunt and know that I didn't kill him because I was sitting out on full moon stages. So that's my take on it.
For New Mexico bear and fall turkey with a bow.
I would say the same thing we said about the Idaho thing. Obviously turkeys. I'm not a huge turkey guy in the fall, but the New Mexico bear. I don't know what depends on if you're in the desert or in the mountains, but I would just focus on the food.
And I think fall turkey, I always say it's all about water with turkeys in the fall. A lot of times that time of year, they've got to drink a lot of water, so you've got to be around water. Check for tracks on those, whether it be springs or dirt tanks. And if you're not seeing tracks, I'd move till you see tracks. Next question. Any details on the option site, black gold custom bow site Brendan's running?
Yeah, the details are it's a 5-pin option head that I built on a black gold slider, and yeah, I built them myself. And actually, a good customer, ours buddy of mine, EJ Veros, actually built a a windage block where I can just actually put them both together. But it's a bit of an expensive way to build a sight. I think about $650 into each of them. But for the way I hunt and for what I like, I feel like if I've got a range on an animal, I'm far more accurate with a centered pin, centered housing, single pin. And I feel like when I'm walking around hunting elk, I want to have pins to 50. That's when my bow really starts dropping off into where I'm going to need a range and definitely going to need to know the exact. You're not going to take a quick shot past 50, or I'm not going to. So it just works for me. Like I said, I like to center my pin, center my housing. I like a round sight, and I like the ability to flip those out of the way. If I, like last year, I shot an antelope at 82 yards. I was elk hunting and came around this bush, and I was totally wide open. I don't even know how I got close to him, and he was there standing looking the other way at 82 yards, and that's just wide open. I had a good range on him, no wind, and I was able to flip it open, move it to 82, and pounded him. And so for me, I like the ability to have both. You just always have to reset your sight back to, like for me, I walk around with my sight. I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I swing it open, my 30-yard pin. You always just have to set it back to 30. I mean, the one thing is, and I've been doing it for more than a decade, so just remembering to keep it to keep it back at 30 unless you're going to the single pin. But it's just a really good system that's worked for me, and not everybody would like it, but I'm super happy with it.
So your number one reason in choosing that option head on there is so your rover sight, the one that you're sliding with, if you're running, past 30, and you want to dial exactly to the yardage, your pin is centered exactly in the middle of the housing, right?
Yep. Yeah. Cause I've tried centering my pins versus centering the housing, and it just does not work with my brain. And I shot a single pin for a long time, but that's got some flaws in it too. You end up, putting marks on the pin, or like, I just feel like the option head, being able to swing it open, to have multiple pins and swing it open and leave that center pin centered in the housing, centered in my peep. Just really works for me. And especially at long distance, I'm far more accurate with centered pin, centered housing.
So I grew up shooting, just 5 fixed pins inside a round housing. So it doesn't feel, I don't know, I guess I'm used to the feeling of centering my peep sight on the round housing and aiming with a lower pin. So I run my rover pin as my very bottom. It's like right over the top of my level. It's not centered in the housing, which I can see the advantage of that. But I guess just all those years that I've shot fixed pin sights, I've gotten used to centering my peep on the housing and just using a lower pin. So I guess it just comes down to what your personal preference is and what you're used to.
I can tell you that if we were in a shoot off, Kevin's more accurate, so it works good for it makes me as accurate as I can possibly be, but I wouldn't argue with how he does it as well either. And I think it's just one of those things, like, you have to try a bunch of different things over a lot of different years to know what works for you. There's a ton of, here's how you should do it, or here's how this guy does it. Like, that's why you just want to try yourself. I've developed this system myself for what works, that makes how I shoot the most accurate, and it might work for somebody else, but it works great for me.
Next question, bow sight recommendations.
Take your pick. There's so many good sites out there. This is a good time to be alive if you want to pick a good bow sight. I think the first thing I would, like we just talked about, is explore all the different options. You've got, 1 pin slider, you've got a 5 pin slider, or you've got 3 or 5 or 9 or however many you want, just fixed pins. So I would take into account where you're hunting, what type of hunting you'll be doing. If you're sitting in a tree stand and your shot will be 19 yards, like I would only use a single pin if I was hunting out of a tree stand and I was tight quarters and I knew what kind of shots I'd be getting. Living in Utah and hunting around the Mountain West, I never know where my shots are going to be. Like, it could be like I've had them as close as 7 yards and all the way out as far as my sight will extend. So that's why a 5 pin slider works for me. But as far as brand names go, I would, there's a lot of good ones. Like I said, I like the black gold. Brendan, he's obviously combines the black gold and the option. Spot hogs are good. But yeah, find, the best sight you can for your budget and go for it.
Okay, next question here. Is it good to bugle if you can't get closer to a bull because he's surrounded by his cows?
Definitely not. So my opinion on that is be like, I've killed a lot of bulls and a lot of big bulls by getting as close to a cow as I possibly can, and then just waiting. It's going to try your nerves, but one of my favorite things to do is still hunt in on a bedded herd, and I get within shooting distance of the closest cow I can get to. Like the very edge of the herd, that's fine. If I'm 40, 50 yards away from, and I just want to get close to one cow, especially during the middle of the day, because 9 times out of 10, that bull is eventually going to get up and he's going to go check all those cows. I mean, they just do. And especially if you've got the wind right. Now, if the wind's squirrely, I would totally back out. I wouldn't even be close. And it sounds like in that position, unless that bull's going crazy and chasing other bulls around, and at that point in time, yeah, I mean, if he's everything that bugles at him and there's some other bulls there and he's coming after him, absolutely, that can be, I'd definitely make him feel comfortable, maybe get below him and yeah, give it a bugle and he may come looking for you. That's great. But most of the time in those situations, for me, I'd rather I get close to the nearest cow I can get to where I feel I have the wind in my favor, and I just stand there. And I've stood, I think the last one I killed that way, I stood for 4 hours and 20 minutes, and eventually this big 6x7 came over and checked all the cows, did a circle around him. I thumped him at 40. So you just want to look at the situation. Now, if the wind's squirrely, the best advice is just back out and wait for a better setup. But if if you can get close to a cow and you got the wind in your face, I would just stand there as long as you have to, because it's been my experience that eventually, especially if it's a big bull, he's going to go around and check all those cows. They like to sniff them. They think something changes every hour or two, and that's I'd just get close and just don't move.
Yeah, and I would like to throw in, contrary to popular belief, the idea of just blowing a bugle and all of a sudden the bull's just going to tear out and come to your position. That very rarely happens. Speaking from Arizona and Colorado standpoint, if calling, that's probably the worst thing you can do, because now everything is now looking in your direction. I would use the bugle very, very sparingly, but certainly with a big group of elk and a bull you want to kill, the last thing I'm going to do is peel out the bugle and start firing off at him.
Yeah, that bull has what he wants. Why
Right.
would he leave to go track down some other bull talking crap to him? No, he's got what he wants. He's going to tend to the herd, like Brendan was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I invested my first stimulus check. Would it be wrong to spend all of the next one on Kuyu? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I feel like in investing in Kuyu is investing in yourself. I mean, you're going to be warm and dry, comfortable, better time in the woods. So no, I mean, I'm not going to hold that against you.
Any chance of getting waist size 30 or 32 and tall inseams in the future?
So in our attack pant, we offer 3 different inseams. On the longer inseam, they're 37 inches. So he's wanting a 30 by 37 or a 32 by 37. Currently, the longest we have is a 30 and 34 length, and then 32, 34 length. But you can unstitch the hem on the bottom and let out another 1.5 inches. So as far as any chance of getting them in that size, we base our sizing and what we offer a lot on customer feedback. So the more feedback we get, or the more requests we get for a certain size or a certain product, increases the likelihood that we'll do it. So as long as nobody's asking for it, we probably won't offer it. But if we get enough of a demand for it, yeah, it could be possible.
Are they open to backpack ideas, envisioning a backpack built for hot days out west?
Always open to good ideas. One thing I'd say for hot days out west, I mean, our current Pro frame and suspension has a lot of space for airflow. I feel like it does on really hot days, it does a really good job. The connection to your back is really only in the places where you need it, and your waist belt system. But I feel like our pack has a ton of airflow built in, whether it's just in the suspension and is very effective for hot days. I don't know if he's talking a backpack or a certain bag or something, but
Yeah,
I think
we
Kuyu
also
shines in that category, to be honest with you, compared to other
Yeah.
packs.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. With our recent upgrade to the Pro packs, we've gone to a new spacer air mesh, so that's all new. If he has one of our older packs, like an Ultra or an Icon Pro, the new Pros, they're wider across your back, so they have more airflow, and then the spacer mesh gives a lot more breathability, and it's more durable too. So I feel like if anybody has the ideal backpack for hot weather, I would definitely put our hand in the air for that one.
Yeah, I agree. Next question. I don't know if he's teasing or what, but why in the world do you not offer a flat brim hat? I would buy 3 of them right now. Come on.
They get in the way of your bowstring. You can't shoot. You have to kind of pull it to the side if you want to.
Tuck your ears in and go.
There you go. I guess we have in our lifestyle lineup. We've got the mesh back caps in the Richardson 112, which are really popular. But they're not full on flat brim. But if he wants like just a full on flat brim, yeah, we don't have one right now, but I'll submit the feedback for you, Corey, Ben Dixon. There you go. We have 3 of them sold right now.
There we go. Does the Yukon rain gear replace the soft shell guide jacket or as a 4th layer?
I guess it would kind of depend on how, like the Yukon can definitely be used as dual purpose, like your outer jacket, depending on what you're doing. Like if you went, base layer, mid layer, super down pro and Yukon, you certainly could get rid of not having a soft shell, and it's pretty substantial. It's got a lot of pockets. Like you could definitely multi-purpose with that. On the other hand, you could also do the same with the soft shell guide jacket. I mean, the guide jacket has enough DWR that if you're not really planning on getting, a ton of rain, it is highly water resistant. I mean, I've been in some crazy showers where you didn't get wet with the guide jacket. So kind of each of them, depending on the situation, could be kind of interchangeable as not having to take either rain gear or not having to take a soft shell. So I hope that kind of helps. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely run it as a multi-piece.
A good in-between option between the Yukon and the guide would be the Axis jacket. It has waterproof paneling throughout the hood and the tops of the shoulders and the arms. I really like the Axis on those days where it's been raining really hard or it's snowed and you're still going through the timber and everything's still kind of dripping down on you, but you're not necessarily wanting to be in rain gear. So I would consider the Axis as another option in there.
Next question, rank the zip-off long johns warmest to least warm, please.
So we have 4 zip-off long underwear. The original, often copied full zip long underwear. And we have 2 synthetic and 2 merinos, and that is a shot at some people. So we have the 118 and the 97 are synthetic. So the 118 would be the lightest synthetic, and the 97 would be the heaviest synthetic. It's a fleece backed. That's a really nice piece, super light, 5 ounces. And then on the merino side, the 145 is kind of your early season, very lightweight merino, and then we have the pro merino zip off, which is the heaviest merino. So the 4 would, I guess, in order of weight would be 118, 145, 97 pro merino.
Okay, what hunt species would you recommend for a first-time hunt in Alaska?
Yeah, first-time hunt in Alaska, you want to get your feet wet and there's so much that goes into going to Alaska, whether it's the travel or just getting used to being some of those remote areas, and people tend to not freak out, but it's definitely different. You can describe it to anybody until you've been to Alaska. But once you go there, then you realize, man, it's a whole different universe up there. So, a caribou hunt off the Hall Road, some walk-in areas that you can do caribou hunting. And I assume he's talking do it yourself or lower price. That's something you could, it's more affordable. Or a mountain goat hunt is a really good one. I would say for bang for the buck in Alaska, the mountain goat hunt, if you're going to go on a guided hunt, is a tremendous experience. It's a lot less than sheep. Another one that you could look into is Kodiak deer. A lot of guys do their first trip. They go to Kodiak, go hunt Sitka deer. I actually went on my first Sitka deer hunt last year, and that's an awesome hunt. You see a lot of animals, and success rate's really high. I mean, you want to have a good time, you want to get one, and you want to see, you see some great big bears and stuff like that. And Kevin can describe. He just went on a black bear hunt, which is a good one.
Yep. Black bear was fun. I wouldn't be able to do it without the help of Justin Schaefer, because he was running bait sites up there, and that's the only way I would be able to do it again, is if have somebody up there helping you, or a guide or outfitter that's running baits. But blacktail on Kodiak would be the one that I've got my sights on. That's where I want to go next.
Next question. What opportunities, if any, are out there to hunt bighorns with few points and on a budget?
Well, the main one would be the unlimited area in Montana, and there's a lot of stuff you can look up and tell. It's the only place you can. It's probably the toughest hunt in all of North America as far as success goes. It's just a big, nasty. There's 5 areas. Big nasty group of rocks that there's some legal rams in there, and you can go hunt bighorns every year. You've got a tag in your pocket. The other one that people might not associate with bighorns, as far as for the money, and I assume like being a bighorn might not be that important, but once the COVID situation gets kind of all taken down, like probably the most affordable bighorn type hunt you might look into is some of the stuff in Russia. It's a long ways to go. But Kamchatka bighorns and Koryak snow sheep and all that stuff, those are pretty affordable for what you get. I mean, they look very similar to our bighorns. I have not personally done it yet, but like when you look at how much it costs, like you're definitely going to travel around the world. You're probably going to see you're going to run into some logistical problems, but you've got to you're going to go hunt an area that's got bighorns, and it'd be a pretty cool thing, and they look pretty similar. But I think for the money, if you're on a budget, I mean, the unlimited area would be the one. And I think if a guy put a plan together and really dedicated, I'm going to do that for 10 years straight, I think you'd be surprised. You'd probably end up with one.
Okay, best overall vest from Kuyu.
I like the Kenai Ultra. That would probably be if I had to pick one vest out of our entire lineup to use for everything, that would be mine. Insulation, lightweight, super packable, does everything a vest is supposed to do. But that would be my pick.
I second that.
I like the 240 Peloton vest a lot too. It depends on what you're doing. Super down vests are nice if you really need the extra, the heat, and the Axis vest has actually been a new one I've messed around with a few times and like too. So I guess it just depend on what you're looking for in a vest, but hard to beat the Kenai.
I love this next question. Yo, Brendan, where's the sun hat? We're getting fried out here without it.
It's been passed on. Kevin, everybody knows. Like we have to focus on the stuff we can focus on, but it's certainly been passed on.
You mean there's 6 of us in Arizona that want it?
Yep, there's been the demand for the sun hat.
Hey, you take
passed on,
but they look so cool, Brendan.
Take one look at me and how light complected I am. We're coming out with one soon.
Me too.
So, what's his name? The double B32. Just know that you have an advocate at Kuyu that wants. See, I've got a couple of our boonie hats that we had a few years ago, and that's what I wear. And just know that you have an advocate at Kuyu for a sun hat. So stay tuned.
We need about another 4 inches in diameter on that. Okay. What makes the Mountain Star Tint the best on the market? I'm researching several brands.
I would say the design and the function. So the Mountain Star is a double vestibule. It's got an asymmetrical bottom, meaning that it is wider at the top than it is at the bottom. Most tents are square. That would be one thing. It's definitely functional. If you're using it as a 2-man tent, I would put it up against any tent on the market. It is designed for 2 hunters to stay in, for sure. Double vestibule, kind of like everything you'd want in a 2-person, 3 whatever pound tent. It's got. The second thing is there's a lot of tents out there, and I've actually seen some advertisements where people are like, "Oh, this is the best tent ever built," and here's why. Like, listen, if you have to put your rain fly over your poles when you go to get set up and it's raining, I can tell you that that's not a great mountain tent. So You stake down the Mountain Star, and it's got the poles on the outside, and then you clip it together. Like, your inner tent never gets wet. If you are in an absolute downpour, and you'll only know this once you're in a downpour and set up a tent, that you have to set up the tent, and then it's all wet, and then you got to put the rain fly over the top. So there's some competitors that have come out with tents that, like, I think are highly flawed, and those would be the two biggest differentiators. That, you know, the rain fly is connected all the time and into it. You can set that thing up in the nastiest rainstorm you could ever imagine. And it's designed for two people to lay side by side. It's 8 inches wider, shoulder to shoulder. Cause I mean, sleeping head to foot is, you know, who gets that side? So that was what I'd say it'd be the biggest difference.
Nothing like rain under your umbrella, right? Like, having the poles on the outside just makes so much sense.
One of the things I would add to that, when Dar and I went on that mountain goat hunt in Alaska, we both were in our Mountain Stars. We each took our own, and we had that rainstorm that was so big that literally the water was not coming in the vestibule, because there's a mesh, if you will, lining that comes up. The vestibule comes up about 5-6 inches. I had water coming underneath the tent so bad that literally my air mattress, I felt like I was in a swimming pool on my air mattress. In other words, I was floating, but I stayed completely dry. And from that point on, I've been sold on the Mountain Star 2-person tent.
If it's a nice day of camping and you can set it up and it's sunny and you can stake everything out, but like, when you know how good a tent is, when you absolutely need to seek shelter now, and it's like nasty, and mountain goat hunting is one of them. It's happened to me multiple times where you don't have a choice where you're going. The other thing is, it's a freestanding tent. You know, there's been tons of times where I've been sheep hunting where even, you know, we make some tents that are held up by trekking poles. Like, you want a tent that you don't have to stake down. You can put up a Mountain Star with 2 rocks to just hold down the vestibules on the outside, and it's freestanding on top. There are times where you get stuck in a place that, you know, you're not using the stakes. Like, right. You can't pound stakes into solid rock.
Yeah.
So having a freestanding tent, again, as a mountain, and there's a lot more places that you cannot pound something in than you think of, especially in the high alpine or sheep hunting. And, you know, sometimes you might have to stack a flat place that's solid rock. Like, you want a freestanding tent, and the fact that you don't have to put the vest or the rain fly over the top makes it far superior. I love our tent, by the way, if you can't tell.
Yeah, me too. When are Kutana pants coming back in stock, and the Kutana vest?
I was probably talking about the Kutana stretch woven pant. We have them in stock in Velo and also gunmetal and olive. They are in stock right now. We are receiving more Verde and Vias anytime. They're due, like, any moment. So keep an eye on the website. Whenever we're out of anything, if you know, we keep our website up to date. You know, if we're out of it, we'll have a little note at the bottom of the short description saying when, and those are accurate. So that's the best way. As far as a Katana vest, I don't think we have plans for a Katana vest. But that, I guess, that'd be a soft shell vest. I would look at the Axis or even the Guide. Would be very comparable to that. Katana, I think the Katana is would be a nylon 2-way stretch, so a little more durable. But I think maybe even the Peloton 240 would be, you know, would fit that niche.
Give us a lightweight hoodie for hiking, scouting, and in the midst of hunting prior to a stock.
I would say we have two phenomenal runs right now. The 145 Merino hoodie or the 97 Peloton. Both would fit that absolutely perfectly. And I mean, they're ready to order right now. Yeah,
I would echo the same.
Next question. What are your essential pieces? I'm headed to Idaho on a deer hunt in October. Suggestions?
Essential pieces for me are really fall into the down category. Like, I don't go anywhere without super down jacket and pant, especially if you're talking late season. It's just the best insurance policy you can possibly have. Obviously, you're going to need rain gear. You know, your basic kit, which you can jump on our site and find, you know, like, I mean, stretch woven pant, you know, like whatever one of our products, you pick, pant, mid layer, base layers. But the essential pieces, it's important to stay warm, especially, let's see, October, Idaho. Like, it can be pretty darn cold. Like, our whole layering system is built for versatility. Like, depending on your exertion, depending on the temperature, depending on the factors in what you're hunting in, it allows you to stay, warm and comfortable, dry, depending on any situation. So that we build a system that is basically our essential pieces, and it's kind of a loaded question, but that's the way I would answer that.
Okay, next question. Layering system, Southern BC Bighorn, September through late October.
Southern BC, that'd be like northern Montana, Southern BC. Yeah, I mean, if you send me an email, I can send you like a early. I think we have on the site too a later season sheep hunting gear list, and you're going to want to just make sure you do have your super down, your rain gear. Probably going to lean more towards, instead of the mid layers that you can skip, like a soft shell. Gaiters, like that time of year you could get 8 inches of snow, or it could be 70 degrees. And again, kind of like the last question, I think but if you send me or Jay an email, I'll send you my late season sheep hunting gear list, which will definitely get that done.
And it's Brendan B. That's Brendan, BRENDAN B at KUIU.com.
Yep.
Status of the feet warming product you mentioned a year ago for glassing in the cold.
Still in the works. Gonna be perfect when we get it done, and we're definitely working on it.
We did come out with an insulated boot in that time frame. The Rebel K10 has not quite what he's talking about, but we have added an insulated boot to the lineup since then.
Yep.
Okay. Next question: speed versus FOC on arrow build. Ideal feet per second range.
I'll take that one. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Let's hear it, Guru.
Let's hear it, Brendan. What do you got, buddy? Hey, I've shot with Brendan. I've shot field rounds with him. The guy is no slouch. They're at the office in Dixon, just a few miles away at the Yolo Bowman Bow Range. Shout out to those guys. They have a pretty cool course there. Brendan and I would go shoot whenever we're at the office together. We bring our bows and we go hit the range there. And I don't think Brendan had ever shot a field round in his life. That's shooting the black and white targets. The hunter face is a white center and it's black everywhere else. And we shot a half range, which was 14 targets. And I cleaned it, and you dropped like 3, maybe 4 points the whole time, which that's usually what I shoot. I was on fire that day and cleaned it, and Brendan shot. He's no slouch. The guy knows his way around a bow. But to answer his question, speed versus FOC. Interesting fact: like the Korean Olympic team, which is it would be like the U.S. basketball team going to the Olympics. Like those guys just dominate no matter. Yeah, it's a dream team. They shoot and they're shooting 70 meters, which is 76.5 yards. Which is quite a long distance, with a recurve for that matter. So they need something ultra forgiving. They shoot 8 to 10% FOC. So this FOC craze, it's been going on for
Kevin,
5 or 6 years.
FOC stands for
front of center balance.
Okay.
So guys are loading up the front end of their arrow super heavy, and they primarily do it for, I guess, penetration. Some will say that it bucks the wind a little bit better. But, for me, it always goes back to the shot placement and accuracy, because it doesn't matter if you hit, you want to hit the animal good. You want to hit them accurately. If you hit where you're aiming, you're going to zap right through them. You got a dead animal on your hands. If you wound them, you wounded them. Doesn't matter how much. So I guess a little bit more penetration might help in some instances, but I have always preached that shot placement's number one. So I'm not subscribing to the super high FOC. I run my hunting stuff at 12%. We've talked about it before. My speed, I like to keep things around 280 to 290, somewhere in there, and I've even said 275. But that whole ballpark range of 275 to 295 is perfect, because you're shooting super heavy FOC and you're going 230 feet per second. You get a target at 36 yards and you misjudge it by a few yards, that's a miss. Like, I would rather have something fast, accurate, that if you happen to misjudge distance, or your rangefinder reads it wrong, or your animal takes a step or two, you'll still be able to put an accurate shot on them. You're shooting those super slow setups, a little bit of distance between you, you've got a wounded animal on your hands.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I mean, I haven't dived into all that stuff like Kevin gets into it, but I can tell you, like, hunting big bears and hunting, elk and stuff like that, there are a lot of guys that they subscribe to super heavy weight or super heavy FOC. And it's like, especially with big bears, like, man, a super heavy arrow going super slow, it's definitely not ideal. I mean, you need to have some forgiveness on range in between, like, you may come in at 25, you may get him at 40. I mean, if you have a 220 feet per second bow, and I've shot with guys, I actually helped some guys when we were coming back from Alaska on a grizzly hunt, and I was looking at these setups, and they're like, had spent a lot of time online listening to the guys that had never actually killed a big grizzly bear or killed a big brown bear, and they got these massive setups, and it's like, if you're off by 2 yards at 30 yards, you're gonna be 16 inches low. I mean, these things are just like falling out of the sky. So I think, like anything, it's a middle ground. I'm the same as Kevin. I shoot 270 to 290. You want to have a little bit of flexibility, and you want to have a little forgiveness built in there, and and a heavy enough arrow to where it's not crazy fast and not going to zip through something.
Okay, next question. Will stone sheep prices skyrocket after this season with all the backlog due to COVID?
I don't know that stone sheep prices are going to skyrocket. What I will say is, I've had a lot of guys call me in the last 3 months going, "Hey man, when some good deals come up, get a hold of me. I'm ready to go," or whatever. I can tell you this: I think that the good deals on sheep are gone for the next 4 years. Now, this is totally Brendan, my prediction, but there's 500 sheep hunters that are going to have to find a space here. And again, the other thing is, there's no plan yet in Canada. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there's nothing says that we'll be hunting in Canada next year if things don't change. So right now there's 500 guys that are out of a sheep hunt. And so I don't think spots, I think for the next couple of years, I know in the NWT, they're spreading guys out over the next couple of years and putting them in spaces that they have and trying to fill in. I mean, again, those guys lost a lot of revenue. They lost a whole season. There's still old rams dying, but there's some more rams that are going to be able to kill. But I would say that the price could go up, and especially if some of these, the market sets the price, and there's a lot more demand than there is supply right now. And I think for the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be far more demand than there is supply. So I would definitely, I don't think there's going to be many good deals on sheep if they open everything up here in the next couple of years. That would be my prediction.
Next question. Kuyu should make moccasins.
Well, yeah, good feedback. we don't, but apparently we should. Yeah, I'll definitely run that up the flagpole and see who likes it, that idea. So anyway,
that's a new one. I haven't heard that one. When will Velo hooded 240s be available?
Check the website. Whatever the date says they'll be back in stock will be your best answer. Looks like I'm looking at the site right now. The jacket version without a hood looks like we're out of, and yeah, both of them looks like we're out. So get on the website. I don't know when this is going live, but I think we should have them in August, mid-August. So anytime.
Okay, any plan for smaller sizes for us vertically challenged hunters? LOL.
We're always expanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're always expanding stuff. We do have the attack fan right now, which is shorter, but based on like I can see us expanding the line, but as of right now, some of that stuff you just might have to get altered slightly. But yeah, we're trying to add in as many different sizes as we can, and obviously want to include kids and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, rain gear. I'm going to get the Kutana set. I see you post about the jacket. What about the pants?
Pants, same technology as the jacket. Full zip, step in. If you're gonna get the Katana set, yeah, I mean, get the matching jacket that goes with it. It's gonna have the same readability as the jacket, as the pant. They're designed fairly minimal. I mean, that's our most durable rain pant. It's full zip. Yeah, I mean, that's the one to get. If you're going with the Katana set, I guess I don't quite understand the question, but
I think he's saying he's seen me post about the Kutana jacket. What about the pants? And I would echo that, the Kutana pants are phenomenal, great durability, but they're extremely lightweight. I've been using them in Arizona and Colorado, and definitely the Kutana. Used to be heavy on Chugach because of weight. Wore the Yukon up there on the Chugach Dull sheep hunt. Just because I wanted a little bit heavier, but the Kutana wasn't available then. The Kutana for me is definitely the standby. That's the go-to Kuyu rain gear that I use on most everything. But there's uses for both the Chugach, which is a little lighter, and the Yukon, which is going to be heavier. And the Kutana, wouldn't you say, fits in the middle?
Yeah, for sure. The lightest is the Chugach, and then you got the Katana, and it's definitely slightly less breathable but more durable. And then the Yukon is really kind of standalone, super durable. So yeah, I mean that's as far as backpacking rain gear, that's what I'm, especially on the big sheep hunts and stuff like that. That's what I'm using right now.
Okay, next question. Why should I buy Kuyu over First Light or Sitka?
Built better. You look at the ingredients on them. We don't use any spandex. I've looked at everybody's ingredients that they use, and if they're building it with spandex to get their stretch, it absorbs water. It grows odor-causing bacteria. It's slow to dry, and it wears out quick. So think about your favorite pair of underwear. What's the first thing to blow out in them? It's the elastic waistband. We use better products. We use better fabrics that don't have spandex in. We get our stretch by the way it's woven. If you're just outside looking in and you want to get right down to what makes us better, that's the first thing that I think of. I mean, I know there's countless of other reasons, but yeah, that's my big thing right there is the no spandex.
And one of the things I would throw into that question, guys, if you don't mind if I interject, is from what I've witnessed and seen over the years, the guys at Kuyu are guys that are going on these hunts, the guys that are experiencing these mountain hunts, and that, take it upon themselves to try and better their product and make their product better for themselves because they're going on those hunts. In my opinion, those other two companies, the heads of those companies do not go on mountain hunts. So they're making mountain gear for mountain hunts, but they don't even go on those hunts themselves. So when you take professionals, you take, guys like Brendan, guys like Kevin, guys like the head guys at Kuyu, and when Jason was still with us, I mean, that was the premise of the company, is to make better mountain gear. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I'm sorry, it is what it is, and I don't mean anything. It's just the truth. And I've seen it firsthand.
And maybe you like our stance on conservation too.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus too.
One thing to add there, I still have the very, before I worked at Kuyu, I'd tried everybody's gear. I've worked in the industry a long time. You get some hookups and you get to be able to try out other gear. And I still have the very first pair of Kuyu pants I ever got. I wore them 2 days ago. They're attack pants. I bought them in the end of 2013. They've seen the inside of my washing machine more than anything I own. They're solid. I've killed elk in them, deer, antelope. I've delivered babies in them. I've poured cement. I've never had a single piece of hunting gear in my whole collection last as long as this one pair of pants. And I'll still wear them to the office once in a while. They look great. And I don't hammer on them or anything, but they just keep going. And seriously, I've tried everybody else's pants, and they don't last as long. They frankly do not. So,
well, and
I don't know.
Another thing I'll add too, Kevin, is, being the first direct-to-consumer model, people don't understand that when you cut out that middleman of 40%, you're able to put that 40% back into better materials in the product. And what that does is allows you to provide a better product. By cutting out that 40%, you can actually charge less or even the same, but have a way better product. And that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that Jason started Kuyu after he left Sitka is he wanted to work with better fabrics, and that former business model did not work to be able to build the best stuff. And so it's used in real conditions, designed because we actually need it. And again, I mean, we have, it's the ingredients. I mean, it's better products with better fabrics, better designs.
In other words, Brendan, what you're saying about the materials, if Jason wanted to make the same materials that are made in Kuyu and then put 40% on top of that, the consumer would be priced out. So that's why
you would never buy them.
Right.
Yeah, it would certainly be a lot more expensive, that's for sure. And somebody may, but I mean, at the end of the day, we pass the value on. Like, I mean, we buy. It's one of the first times in history, and I would say some of these other brands have switched to become consumer direct now as well. But what they didn't do is cut out the profit margin. I mean, the prices are the exact same they were when they were in the retail model, and now they're consumer direct. And so all they did is just make their margins higher. They haven't improved the product itself.
Right. Okay, do you guys use Kuyu game bags? If so, how many do you recommend for a bull elk?
Yep, use them all the time. Love them. Bull elk, I can tell you, is 2 extra large quarter bags, 2 large quarter bags, 2 large bone out meat bags, a medium and 1 medium boned out meat bag. That's for like back straps and tenderloins. And that'll get a full bull elk out. And I also take a large quarter bag for the cape. If you kill a big bull and you want to keep it cool, that's so 2, and yep.
If you weren't taking notes right then, go to our website, click on the size guide for game bags. Brendan and I put that list together for smaller games. So if you're hunting like Coues deer, pronghorn, or medium-sized game like mule deer, whitetail, and then larger game like moose, caribou. That list is spot on. So that's what I would recommend as well. On top of what Brendan said, that same exact information is on our website. Click on the sizing guide. That'll give you everything. You won't be short. You may have a little bit of extra, especially if you're not taking a cape or some of the trim meat, but that'll get you what you need.
Yeah,
and some guys, and some people like to, like for me, I always bone out the front shoulders. Like it seems like a lot of bone for me to carry, and I just take the time right there on the spot to always bone out the front shoulders. Some guys, want to take the whole bone in and then, maybe size up on and get all 4 XLs, so you make sure you got it covered. And especially you might want to go to some of the bigger sizes on the quarter bags, especially if it's early in the year, because keep the bugs off it. So, but yeah, that's all there if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and I'd like to say too, Kevin, I think you've had your hand has really been on the KUIU website, and the website's really come a long ways. It's so comprehensive. Anybody out there listening that hasn't been on the KUIU site lately, go check it out, because I know Kevin and his team, I know Brendan, they've had a lot to do with really getting comprehensive on the site. And guys, any of these questions, this is why we do these Q&As, but any questions you have, always send them to me. I can always funnel it to these guys. You can email Brendan direct, email Kevin direct, and get answers. Next question, best pant to compare to the First Light brush pant.
I'm not familiar with that pant, but if it's a brush pant, I would say it'd be Katana or Talus. I mean, I'm guessing
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think where we went up on that is on the Talus is the waterproof paneling. The whole lower leg is waterproof as well as the seat. So it's super durable fabric too. It's real tight weave. But yeah, that's probably what I would go with. Or like you said, the Katana.
Question here. Have you ever wore any Sitka? If so, what makes Kuyu stand out better than Sitka or First Light? I think we just covered that.
Yeah, I wore it for 5 years before we started Kuyu, and I'm very familiar with the line. And even so, and we're always looking. I mean, I will say one thing about us, like we're not ostriches. We don't put our head in the sand and pretend like somebody's not coming out with something good. We look at everything. We can give a nod to something if somebody comes out with something good and see how we can improve on it. We're very aware. One thing we don't hide from anybody else's product. We test stuff and make sure that we continue to believe that we have the best products out there. So we're not unaware of our competition by any means.
Next question, I'll take it. It says from Devin Pierce, best setup for Southern Arizona cat claw. He put car claw, but I know he means cat claw. So the cat claw is nasty. It's pretty much indigenous there for Arizona and northern Mexico. It's nasty stuff. The best that I've found is the Kutana pant, and then the guide pant, because it has the fleece lining. It does give you a little bit of protection when you're really busting through that brush. But the Kutana has done great for me on coos and on desert sheep hunts in the cat claw. So give that a try. Let's see here. What camo pattern for Midwest turkey would you recommend?
I guess it depends on the time of year. It's pretty hard to beat Verde in the springtime, and then
Yep.
the new pattern Velo in the fall is going to be hard to beat in a lot of that stuff. So I would say either of those.
Okay, best setup for 11-year-old girl going on first elk hunt this summer. Guys, before you answer that, one of the things that I would suggest is, so you've got an 11-year-old going on her first elk hunt. I don't know if it means she's accompanying you or she's actually hunting, but so make sure the 11-year-old has a good time. Kind of take the hunt, your personal goal of the hunt yourself out of, maybe going super hard. I would go into that trying to make that 11-year-old want to come back, so she's now a 12-year-old going on an elk hunt. Guys?
Yeah, I would definitely add to that. Sorry. I think with my own kids, how I can gauge their level of interest or what to expect opening morning is don't make opening morning the first time. Take them scouting. That extends the season. You can kind of see how they're going to react and give you a really good look on what opening morning will be like. So, just don't make the mistake of that being their first time stepping out. As far as gear wise, Brendan, he's got kids and I have kids as well. So we're seeing this gear in action. When I'm going on the mountain, I want my kids wearing the same type of layering system that I am. And that's exactly what we have with our soft shells and the reversible insulated jacket and the Sierra pant, the synthetic base layers. They've got their own little kit so they can be just like Dad.
Yeah, I would say for my son, he's not quite that old, but I just took him on a 9-mile goat scouting trip and the other day. And one thing is, keep them warm, make sure they got plenty of food, make sure they got water, just keep it fun. And we've all the way I hunt, I've certainly got the potential to be considered a psycho dad at some point. So I get it's just trying to keep it fun. Safe and fun and trying to keep them warm. It seems like if they're having a bad time, a lot of times they're either wet or cold. And that's one thing I always bring extra, even if it's my stuff. My son's really, really small and, he's not big right now, but even on a warm day, if I know it's going to be good, I still throw in an extra super down jacket for them. If we're sitting somewhere and, they get worn out pretty easy and I'll just wrap him up like a little burrito and he freaking falls asleep right there and, wake him up when he's ready to rock. But warm and dry is definitely number one for me.
Okay, best soft shell for November.
I would say the Axis. The guide jacket's great, breathable. It obviously depends on what you're doing, but I would say if we're talking November, we're talking snow, windproof, waterproof where you need it, and got a lot of strut. I would say that the Axis is what I'd look at.
Brendan, from a hybrid standpoint, when you're talking about the Axis with the waterproof paneling in the areas like up on the shoulders, up on the arms, top part of the arms, but then
on the hood,
on the hood, but underneath, and on top of the shoulders too, but underneath, say under the arms, then that's where the hybrid comes in and it's a more breathable material. Talk about how that's kind of a game changer with the Kuyu Axis jacket, in your opinion.
So a lot of the hybrid stuff would be, and we have a bunch of them now, it can be two things. It can be multiple different fabrics, and a hybrid is basically the best fabrics in the correct spot. So sometimes, like for example, on the Axis, you have a membrane in between the two layers, which makes it waterproof. But, it doesn't leave it as breathable as it could be. That's where the stuff underneath, you go with a lighter fabric and it's more breathable, got more stretch. You have the waterproof panels where you need it, and you have the breathable panels where you need it the most as well. On the pants, like you want them to be super breathable, but it's nice that they have a membrane on your butt and on your knees down to your ankles where you're going to be going through the snow, and the rest of the place it's highly breathable. You still have the hip vents and all that stuff. So really, when we look at hybrid, whether it's some of our mid layers or the pants or anything like that, it's the perfect fabric in the best spots.
Good answer there. I keep seeing Kuyu teepee. When will it be available?
Wonder if he's talking about the Summit Star one-person tent. Looks like a teepee. It's got a center pitch pole. Those are available and on the site right now. We also have the Summit Refuge 3-person tent, which I guess at certain angles may have a teepee appearance to it. But those are in stock, ready to go as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen a teepee.
Okay, good lightweight jacket to wear in AZ during those crisp mornings.
A lot of times on crisp mornings, I'll kind of combine stuff. And again, if it's Arizona, let's just assume it's not raining. It's pretty hard to beat a Kenai a lot of times. If you need something that's a bit substantial when it's cold in the morning, possibly in the later day, but my kind of go-to piece a lot of times is the Kenai for versatility. It's super warm. It's actually far more durable than you would think it would be, and it's pretty lightweight as well. Packs up nicely.
Super quiet too. I would say it's one of our quietest jackets.
Okay, guys. Last question here: Tiburon or Attack?
Depends on the temperature. I mean, if it's crazy hot, you can't beat Tiburon, and I would actually put the Katana in between the Tiburon and the Attack. But depending on the temperatures you're going to be hunting in the area, if it's 90 to 120, I mean, you're going to definitely want to go with Tiburon. The rest of the time, you may want to go to either Katana or Attack for both durability and stretch, or a little bit something that's a little more substantial.
If I had to pick one, it would be the Attack, because they're not bad when it is super hot. You got the hip vents, you can dump heat, very breathable. If I had to pick one, I like them both, and I wear both all the time. Tiburon's when it's hot, Attack's when it's cool.
Yeah, Attack Pen is definitely our best selling product, and has been for 10 years. So you can't go wrong with that.
Guys, really appreciate you taking the time to answer these customers' questions, KUIU customer questions. A lot of good info here. Appreciate the time. Also want to remind the listeners, go check out KUIU.com. That's KUIU.com. Guys, I appreciate it. Any last any things you want to add in conclusion here that we've talked about, or just anything in general?
No, it's about to be hunting season, so good luck to everybody. And like I said, if you have questions, send them in. So either send them to Jay or send them to customer service or send it direct. We'll get them answered. And good luck to everybody. It's about to be. We'll definitely be slightly unreachable for the next couple months. But if you have more stuff for Jay, send it in. And obviously, love to answer the questions.
Yeah, and
if you guys
don't forget about. Sorry, Kevin. Don't forget about Conservation Direct. Anybody that wants to get involved in conservation, I've got so many people reached out. It's time to put our money where our mouth is. Go ahead and reach out. Send me a direct message through Instagram or email at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com, and I will make sure to get you connected with Brendan and Conservation Direct. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was about to say, tag us if we want to see what you guys put down on the grounds. KUIU Official on Instagram and Facebook, and also use the hashtag KUIU Nation, and we look at every one of those. We love seeing your photos and seeing our gear in action, and it's cool. So good luck, everybody.
Awesome, guys. Thanks. God bless, and have a great hunting season, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
All right, we'll catch you later, Jay.
Thanks, guys. Later.
Yep, bye.
Guys, I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com, my friend Cody Nelson, the glassing guru, the optics authority. He's the optics manager at GoHunt.com. If you have any interest in buying optics or have any glassing questions, whether it be tripods, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, range finders, anything to do with glassing, give Cody a call, 702-847-8747. That's extension 2, or you can email him at optics@gohunt.com. You can also send him a text or call him on his cell phone at 602-399-3699. Guys, right now at GoHunt.com Insider, you can take advantage of the free trial. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott. You're going to be able to take advantage of a free trial of the Insider. GoHunt is always adding more value for their Insider members. They've now added real 3D maps as a part of Insider for no additional cost. What an incredible value. Very soon they're going to have their mobile app up as well. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott and sign up for a free trial. If you're already an Insider member, it's automatically part of your Insider membership, and you can just go to the Maps tab up at the top once you sign in as an Insider. I also want to thank Kuyu Ultralight Hunting. That's the gear that I wear on all of my hunts. To find out more, you can go to KUIU.com, Kuyu.com. They're a direct-to-consumer company. They sell everything off of the KUIU.com website. I also do a lot of question and answer on my Instagram, where I'm answering questions about guys wanting to know about gear about Kuyu, so tune into my Instagram. I want to thank Kuyu for their sponsorship. I also want to thank phonescope.com. Use the JScott20 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount on all orders. And I want to thank allelk.com, home of the Bugle Mule. Use the JSO10 to save 10% on all orders. The Bugle Mule attaches to your bugle, and it's a great little carrier that holds 3 elk calls right there on your bugle tube, and I can't wait to use it this season. Again, thanks to all the sponsors of my podcast.